You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
All right, everyone. I am getting us started this week, and boy, howdy, do I have something for us today.
Oh, I'm so excited.
All right, so as naturalists, we tend to, at least in our work, have a variety of amphibians and reptiles that we work with.
Sure,
yes,
yeah.
that is true.
We teach about the habitats and the species themselves. We also teach about their various defenses. So Kirk and Victoria, what are some common defensive strategies of frogs?
Camouflage.
Camouflage.
They can make themselves larger to maybe look more intimidating or harder to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
They can jump and swim very quickly.
Those are all really good ones.
How about being toxic?
Being toxic? Ooh, I like
or,
it.
having poisonous secretions on your body.
Those are all really good defensive strategies. The animal the frog I'm talking about today does none of those things.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it does some of those things. Obviously,
yeah, sure.
It swims away.
But that's not what you're talking about.
No. So the frog I'm talking about is the hairy frog, or, ready for the Latin? Trichobactrachus robustus.
Right.
Okay.
It is hairy frog. Yeah, and it's a Central African species of frog. It was first described in Western science by George Bollneger, a Belgian zoologist in 1900. It gets its name mainly from the breeding male. So I'm going to describe this frog, and then I will go forward a little bit more about how bizarre this is. So they're about 4 to 5 inches long, with the females actually being slightly smaller than the males.
Can I ask a question? Are you talking stretched out or just sort of in their resting state? Because that can be quite different.
Yes. So it's just in their body. So from the tip of their nose all the way down to their cloaca.
Okay,
All right.
so we're not talking like legs and
Not
stuff.
long
Gotcha.
legs
the
and
stretched out
things.
legs.
Not
Cool.
including stretched legs. Yeah.
I'm
they have
really
a really
interested-
broad head. Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I'm really
okay.
interested to see where you're going with this because if I recall my amphibians correctly, they're known for not having any hair.
Uh-huh. You are right.
Well spotted, Victoria.
Nice job. They do tend to, not have hair. So they have a broad head with a rounded snout, and males actually have 3 short ridges of small black spines on the inner part of their front foot digit on the side of their front foot.
Okay.
However, when the males of the species are breeding, they will develop dermal papillae along their thighs and the sides of their body, which looks a lot like hair.
Dermal
but actually
papillae.
It is
Like how long are we talking here?
about a ½ inch to an inch.
That's
Oh my.
lengthy.
Wow. So this is not like a peach fuzz. We're talking
No. Shaggy. And for those of us who don't know what that is, that means that they're strands of hair. They are strands of skin that are filled with arteries. Okay. And the hypothesis is the breeding male develops these not for attracting mates or anything, but they think that this terrestrial species of frog uses these to act as like an external gill and absorb oxygen, because after the female lays the eggs on the rock, the male will actually stay with the eggs until they turn into tadpoles.
This is underwater?
On
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
On a rock,
Underwater rock.
underwater.
Got it.
Underwater rock.
Gotcha. That's a helpful bit of information.
Yes.
Okay, so he doesn't have
saves
gills, but he uses these hair things to help him breathe underwater, they think.
Yeah, they think. They're not really
Interesting.
sure. And this is what my research has said. These are muscular tadpoles. So they are some beefy babies. And, oh, by the way, they have several rows of teeth.
Teeth.
The tadpoles do, or the adults?
The tadpoles.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Now, they aren't true teeth. Okay? These are cornified, so they're just like fake, not fake, but they're bumps inside that actually cause them to like chew.
Okay, so it's like bumps on their jaw rather than actual teeth.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if that all wasn't bizarre enough, one of their methods of defense, one of their primary ones, besides like hiding or swimming away and things like that, they literally break the bones of their toes to project through their skin when they are grabbed or attacked.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, this
like
would explain
Wolverine.
something. Yeah,
Harry
because I just looked up an image of this frog, and I was like, why does a picture of Wolverine come up in my search?
One of their common
and
names.
You said it right as I was looking at it.
One of their common names is the Wolverine frog. Also, the horror frog.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Wow.
So
that sounds incredibly painful.
Right. This is the only.
Just to clarify, the bones are not made out of adamantium.
No, they are not made out of adamantium. They are actual bones. So these look a lot like cat claws, actually. So they're not like super out like a Wolverine's claws, which is, I'm not gonna lie, what I thought originally when I first heard of this. I'm like, how long are these frogs' claws?
Right, they got long hair. They got long claws too, right?
So these are much shorter, but it is enough for them to pierce through the frog's foot pad. So what happens is there is a small bony nodule in the tissue of like the frog's fingertip, which is where the sharp claw is anchored using like collagen. Yeah. And when it's threatened, grabbed, or like attacked, the muscle that is attached to the back part will break the collagen and since the muscle is contracting, it causes the bone to go whoosh, and now it is a claw.
I love how you think that people listening know what means.
With the hand gesture.
I made a claw motion for all of us listening. So it breaks that connection and it forces the bone through its skin while that muscle contracts.
Oh man!
So can like Wolverine, are they extra special healers? Can they heal after they do this, or do they then just have their bones sticking through their skin for the rest of their life?
So, fun fact: they are retractable. Apparently, we don't know how they retract the claws. We don't know what happens when they retract the claws. The thought is that it happens passively, like when the muscle relaxes, the bones go back in. And by the way, this is a sharpened bit of bone. It's not just like, the edge of a femur or anything like that. It's a sharpened bit of bone.
I'm looking at the Google image search here, and I don't know if it's an x-ray or just like a close-up, and the skin is kind of transparent, but you can see, and the shape is actually a lot like a cat claw.
Exactly.
Very much so,
yeah. But there's no muscle that causes them to be able to retract, so the current idea is that it's passive.
Okay.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah. Well, that's what I have for you all today. And when we return from our break, it'll be Victoria.
Kirk here with a quick note. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It helps other lovers of the strange find our show. You can also find and follow us on social media. Search for Strange by Nature Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or come visit us at strangebynaturepodcast.com. We'll see you there. Now, back to the show.
Well, we're back. And my topic today, I'm going to take you on a trip to South Africa, or maybe Botswana, kind of the semi-arid areas of Southern Africa. And I want you to imagine that you're taking a hike, and it's a pretty dry, grassy area. And ahead of you, you see a stand of trees. Seems like a nice place to take a rest in the shade. So you're walking toward them, and as you're walking toward these trees, you notice at the ground, near the base of the trees, something sticking out of the ground. It looks mostly brown. What?
I'm walking away.
Possibly wise. It's mostly brown, but there's this flash of salmon orange color.
Okay.
Can't quite tell what's going on. It doesn't really look like an animal or a flower. Not sure what it is. And suddenly the breeze shifts towards you, and your nose is overwhelmed by a horrible putrid odor that smells sort of like poop or maybe a rotting body.
So
Gross.
This sounds kind of like the corpse flower that Rachel was telling us about.
Well,
Yep.
Possibly. As you get a closer look at these strange objects, you realize the smell is in fact coming from them. So you can
Okay.
take a look at the email I sent you now.
Is this
Oh,
a dead
boy.
body, Victoria?
It is not a dead body.
What?
Okay, you
What?
seem to have mistakenly sent me a Georgia O'Keeffe painting.
it does look a lot like Georgia O'Keeffe painting. So to
That's
just
something. Or perhaps fans of Stranger Things will recognize the mouth of the Demogorgon.
yeah, it does kind of look like it's preparing to open to devour something. I don't know how big they are, but the outside, it's like 3 petal looking shapes that are kind of
Yep.
rough and brown on the outside, and the
Like
inside is this,
a very textured brown leather
yeah,
on the outside.
and
Yep.
the inside looks like a very fleshy pink thing with
Very fleshy.
so fleshy and kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little bit like an elongated cantaloupe.
Yeah, the inside is sort of melon-like.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit of like also like an earth star mushroom kind of vibe off this as well, if you know what those look like.
I don't, but
Maybe like
Okay, well.
a fleshy crab claw from another planet coming out to grab us.
yeah, it does have a
This
very
does look like something.
alien aspect, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you land on a foreign planet and you're like, oh, what is this thing? And then it like comes further out of the ground, opens up and eats you.
Yeah, it
Yes.
you do think it might be something that's going to grab you and
Pull you under.
make itself your host or something.
Yeah.
Well,
And this is where the dead body smell is coming from?
yes. What do you think it is?
Oh,
what
lovely.
what kingdom of life?
Oh, sounds like this is a trick question.
Not necessarily.
I want
I
to
mean-
say fungi.
Yeah, I get that sort of vibe to it. That's why I was thinking that's kind of reminded me of that Earth Star mushroom. But that color, that like
It's going to be in the plant kingdom, isn't it?
melon, yeah, plant or fungus is kind of where I'd go.
You tell us this is in the animal
If
kingdom.
this is an animal,
I
I'm
swear,
gonna lose my mind.
I will.
It is not
I'm
an
going to
animal.
leave.
Okay, all right.
Thank goodness.
Oh,
Hey, it won't eat us then.
I mean, look, it's the podcast called Strange by Nature. If it was an animal, I would be horrified, but also overjoyed that our planet is so strange and wonderful. But go ahead and tell us what it
Right.
is.
So it is actually a plant, but it is a very
Okay.
strange
Of course.
plant. And the comparison to the corpse flower is pretty apt. The Latin name is called Hydnora africana. The English name is jackal food, also known as jakkalskos in Afrikaans, or hang on a moment, mavumbuka in Zulu. So it is a parasitic plant.
I'm not going to contradict you on that.
Nope. You've heard me try to speak Latin.
That was my best guess at Zulu. So for any Zulu-speaking listeners, I apologize if I got that wrong. So it is a parasitic plant, like the corpse flower, and it attaches itself to the roots of trees in the genus Euphorbia. And also, like a different topic that Rachel talked about recently, like the Indian pipe plant, it has lost its chlorophyll.
Cool.
Okay.
It does not need chlorophyll as a parasite. So these seeds are most likely to germinate near a host plant, and then they put down a primary root, and they get close to the root of the host plant, and then it excretes an enzyme that eats through the outer layer of the root, and it kind of forms this graft, where it grafts itself to the root.
Wow, cool.
Oh, so it's like whoa. So it's attaching itself to
a tree root.
The plant and actually getting the nutrients from the roots and just sapping parts of it?
Yep, so it just pulls its nutrients from the host. And then
that's crazy.
So do they consider it a saprophyte, do you know? Is that the correct term then? Cuz
don't remember if I saw that exact term in my research. It could be.
Cool.
So then it creates its own network of underground stems, and it grows almost entirely underground. And the part that I showed you a picture of that actually emerges out of the ground is the flower. As little as that actually looks like a flower.
Well, I could see it. I mean, we thought it was like a fruit type thing, and technically the beginning of a middle. Well, that's the end product of a flower, I suppose, is a fruit. Okay.
Yes. So these buds come up out of the ground. It starts out as a kind of an ovoid bud, which is like 10 to 15 centimeters long, so about 4 to 6 inches. And it has this rough, scaly, pebbly brown surface. You kind of noticed that on the outside. And it's on top of a short tube that's about 2 centimeters in diameter. And like an alien pod, this bud splits open vertically to make 3 or 4 lobes, vertical lobes. And at first there's only a very tiny slit in between all the lobes, and these slits are lined with bristles. And then,
we didn't mention like the little hairs kind of on the sides.
Yeah, they look very much like teeth.
Yep. Disturbing, for sure.
Yep.
We're going with the alien. It looks like baleen, like really short baleen on from whales.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting comparison. We're going to get to that, Rachel.
What?
So then when the flower fully opens, it's got that fleshy, bright salmon orange interior that you were noticing before. And the entire inner surface of the lobes is actually covered with these stiff, downward pointing bristles.
Ah, okay.
Downward pointing bristles.
Downward pointing, exactly.
Why are they downward pointing?
The foul smell, you might guess, is to attract its pollinators, which are mainly carrion beetles.
Okay.
So the beetles enter these slits before the flower has fully opened, being attracted by the smell, and they actually get trapped in the bristles inside. And they can't climb up because the bristles are downward pointing.
Downward pointing.
Oh, okay.
And they drop down into that tube, and the tube contains the anthers. So the beetle gets covered in pollen and then drops down even further onto the stigma, which is soft and shaped like a cushion, according to my sources. So it pollinates the flower.
Nice and soft landing.
Yeah. When the flower fully opens, the beetles can escape. Now, one of the sources I read said that they could eat some of the flower flesh. So I guess if that's true, this is not entirely without a reward for them.
Right. So they're are they only self-pollinating? I mean, not self-pollinating in the sense of doing it themselves, but the pollen from one part. It doesn't sound like there's any mixing of pollen. They're getting their own pollen back, it sounds like.
I mean, I guess that's mainly what happens, but I guess it could also happen that it goes...
Once it
doesn't learn its lesson, it goes to
Right.
Like, hey, this is nice. I mean, if I'm a carrion beetle, I this is a nice vacation. I get a little bit of food, there's some nectar, and a nice soft cushion to sit on.
But I gotta imagine, if you're a carrion beetle, though, this is like you're kind of thinking, if I'm going out and I'm like, I'm gonna get a really great hamburger for dinner, and then someone brings me like a veggie burger, and you're like, I mean, maybe it doesn't taste bad, but it's not what I was told was gonna happen here.
Yeah.
Based on the wonderful aroma you're pumping out of your restaurant.
I think you're pretty much right, Kirk.
Okay, that's fair.
Very strange that I'm right, but yeah.
So after the fruit develops, after the flower is pollinated, the fruit develops. It takes about 1 to 2 years to develop, and it develops underground. And it actually contains a sweet and starchy edible pulp that's got thousands of seeds in it. And it is enjoyed by, as you might guess from the name, jackals, baboons, other mammals, birds. And people can also eat it. It's said to be a traditional food of the Khoi people of southern Africa. And it's apparently, I'm not sure exactly how this lines up with it being edible, but it's also apparently extremely astringent and could be used for making or for tanning things and preserving fish nets. I was really looking around for somebody giving a recent firsthand account of trying this fruit, but I couldn't find anything. There was only stuff from books from 1924 that were quoted, that kind of thing.
That's fair. I will say I'm not over the fact that it takes 1 to 2 years for this fruit to develop here. That's a long time for a fruit to develop.
Yeah. It's also traditional medicine for diarrhea, dysentery, and kidney and bladder problems. And some recent lab tests have shown some antibacterial and antioxidant activity. So it's a useful and very, very strange plant. Really one of the strangest looking plants in the world, I would venture to say.
Yeah, look it up. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And I want to thank the South African National Biodiversity Institute, who had a very informative webpage on this plant. When we come back from the break, it's going to be Kirk's turn.
Welcome back. I want to talk about biologist Jose Hernan Zarzola. He has brought to light something I think is pretty fascinating. Mr. Zarzola is a director of the Center for the Study and Conservation of Birds of Prey in Argentina. He's also the editor-in-chief of El Hornero, the Argentinian Ornithological Journal. So Zarzola assembled a team of field biologists to hike through Parque Luro National Reserve in Argentina and collect, they were in search of, as the old saying goes, it starts with an S and it ends with a T. It comes out of you and it comes out of me. I know what you're thinking, but don't think that. We're scientists. We call it scat.
Yay!
Yay!
If you still haven't figured out what we're talking about, I'll spell it out clearly. They were looking for fecal material, aka poop. So to be specific, his team wasn't just looking for any old scat. They were searching out scat from puma concolor, aka cougars. Now, I know this might seem strange, as this guy's entire career is mostly focused on bird conservation.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Hear me out. So the researchers were looking in this park, and they found 123 piles of scat in the reserve, and they did what biologists do. They poked it with a stick. So they did a little bit more than that, a little more scientific poking. They were.
Are you sure? Because as a naturalist, I have poked many things that were dead with sticks or not dead or scat, and I have photos to prove it.
Well, they were analyzing the samples. I'm sure it involved very small sticks. They wanted to see what was inside. So of those 123 samples, they did contain the well-decomposed remains of animals they had eaten, of course, but they also contained something else. Any guesses what it might have been?
Bacteria.
Seeds.
Ooh, we had bacteria and seeds. You're probably both right. I'm sure there was bacteria in there, but seeds is the main thing they were looking for. And now when I think of cougars, I think of carnivores that take down some pretty good sized prey. And most of them, I guess I would kind of assume would be mammals. Like I'd probably picture if it was a cougar around places where I live, it's gonna be something like rabbits or squirrels, and I don't know, maybe like a beaver or a raccoon.
Young
I never,
deer.
yeah, I never really
Yeah, maybe
thought
some
about it a
small
whole lot.
birds if they can catch them.
Well, it turns out that at least in this specific park they were in, one of the favorite things they like to eat is birds. Specifically,
Huh.
they like to chow down on eared doves. Now, don't worry if you don't know what an eared dove looks like. They look a lot like a mourning dove. So if you've seen a mourning dove or probably pretty much any other kind of dove near you, that's what they look like. There's not that
Think
much
pigeon.
variation in doves. Yeah. Um,
Wait, hold on. If it's an eared dove, do
yeah.
they have ears?
Well, all birds have ears, Rachel.
Oh,
Yes.
well,
Just
yeah.
not
Does it have like
external.
little tufts?
No, I think there's some like black marks on their head or something that is sort of ear-like, if I recall. But the story is
All
not
right.
about ear doves. You can cover that next week if you want. Um, so what happened was they were looking through the scat, and they found out that there was, you know, I mean, these doves technically, I guess, was was in the scat. But the interesting bit was the seeds. These doves had eaten seeds, and when the cougars, who famously are not seed eaters, ate the doves,
Mm-hmm.
they also swallowed the stomach and what's called the crop of the bird. So if you're not familiar with the word crop, it's not crop like crops farmers grow. It's a widening of the esophagus
It's
where
the
birds can,
gizzard if you're familiar with a turkey or a
yeah,
chicken.
Oh,
it's like where they can
definitely
store
not a
food
crop
for
top.
later, right? So when the cougars were eating the doves, they were also eating the seeds as well. How many seeds did they find, you ask? The researchers painstakingly combed through the scat and counted 31,687 seeds.
That's a lot of seeds.
Rachel,
What?
pick a jaw up off the ground there.
That's
Uh,
what? It didn't
yeah.
like get dissolved by the cougar and the dove
No, now keep in
stomachs?
mind, this had not yet passed through the digestive tract of the dove, right?
Okay,
It was
but it
mostly
still
probably in that
passed
crop or sort
through.
of that gizzard.
It
And
still
it did
passed
pass,
through
certainly
the
did.
cougar very
Sure
much.
did. Yep,
Also, who
yep.
wants that job? Let's count how many seeds that were covered in scat.
I'm gonna assume there was grad students involved, but I don't know all the details.
Or
Um,
volunteers, possibly.
yeah, volunteers. So what happened was when they went through here, they also not only identified these 31,678 seeds, but also what kind of plant they came from. They found that they came from the three primary plant species were common lamb's quarter, panic grass, and sorghum in that order of abundance. Incredibly, the researchers planted the seeds to see what happened, and many of them actually germinated,
Huh.
Okay.
which is very cool. So, time for some math here 31,687 seeds, 123 scats. That's 260 seeds per scat. They estimate there to be about 9 cougars per 100 square kilometers in the reserve. And knowing how often the cougars make deposits, as it were, they can then determine what role cougars play in spreading around seeds. So they came up with an estimate per square kilometer. So for each square kilometer of cougar range, they are spreading 5,000 seeds. Uh, Another way to look
Per
at that,
Okay.
what?
well,
Yeah.
I believe that's per year, though I did not
Okay.
see that specified, which is really weird. But
So that
another way
was a
to
lot of math to say that cougars plant about 5,000 plants per
per square
kilometer.
kilometer. Yeah.
Per
Now
square
another way,
kilometer of their range. Okay.
right, and not every one of those is going to germinate or be in a favorable spot, but those are being deposited.
That's
They
still
estimate,
astounding.
yeah, they actually estimate that a cougar, because they don't stay just in 1 square kilometer, a single cougar could spread 94,000 seeds per year.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
I
Now
just
you might.
What?
Yeah, it's way more than I think anyone was really expecting because we don't
They're
think of them as seed
cougars.
eaters. Right, they're cougars.
Yeah.
We don't think of them as. Now, you might think that the birds would be spreading even more seeds than the cougars, but turns out no. While the seeds can pass through the digestive tract of cougars unharmed, they cannot pass through the bird's entire digestive system without being destroyed. So actually, the cougars are spreading way more of the seeds than the birds are.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
Oh
research
my
like this
gosh.
is showing that sometimes the way ecosystems are naturally managed or form or spread has a lot to do with hidden interactions or hidden ecological services that we're not seeing. I think we're familiar with the fact that a lot of seeds get passed around by animals. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's why fruit is so tasty. I mean, you look at Victoria's story about that fruit, and the jackals like to eat it, and that's how that plant spreads around, is by being tasty to jackals, so they will spread it around. I mean, or humans, we pick an apple off a tree and we maybe walk a mile while we're eating it, and then start dropping and spitting out the seeds as we're going, and then new apple trees, grow up. So we know that
Yeah.
animals that are eating plants with seeds play an important role in the ecosystem. It's kind of cool to see carnivorous animals spreading seeds. It's kind of a
Yeah.
fascinating, fairly new idea. So it's cool to see some research into that. I do want to point something out. There were some articles that were in the popular media that picked up on this research and talked about how these predators are important for spreading seeds. But I felt like the articles were a little like rah, 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 cheering on how awesome and natural this all is and marveling at the
Mm.
wonder of nature. And I think they didn't really analyze the fact that we also need to look at what seeds are being spread. The number one seed being spread around was lamb's quarter, and lamb's quarter is a non-native summer annual weed species
Mm.
in that area. And the number three one was sorghum, which is a cultivated farm crop. Panic grass, which was the second most common, is actually native to the area. So ultimately, the cougars were responsible for spreading both native and non-native plant species, and definitely having an impact on the environment, some of which was probably positive, and some may not have been so positive, depending on what seeds they were spreading around. Um, as anyone who's lived somewhere where buckthorn is prevalent, like
Ugh.
us,
Yeah.
we know that animals are responsible for spreading buckthorn into our forests when birds eat the seeds and poop out the seeds, which remain viable through their digestive tract. So we're aware
Yeah.
that animals do play a role in spreading species. But I think it's also important to highlight that they're not somehow selectively only spreading those seeds that are positive for the environment. So it's really an awareness that it's more complex, and that there's one of those, it's kind of one of those reoccurring things we come back to, that these systems in nature are far more complex than we sometimes paint them to be, which is pretty interesting. If you want to read more about this, you want to check out the entire research paper. It is called Hypercarnivorous Apex Predator Could Provide Ecosystem Services by Dispersing Seeds. It came out
Hmm.
February 2016 in Scientific Reports, which is one of the sort of subjournals of Nature. And the co-authors were Juan Ignacio Zanon Martinez, Andrea Silvina Costan, and William J. Ripple. So thank you to them and their teams for doing this cool research.
Yeah, that was really
What a neat
cool.
story. Thanks, Kirk.
Oh,
No problem.
that's so many seeds. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a lot of seeds. Well, hopefully none of us will get eaten by cougars before next week's show.
Fingers
Why-
crossed.
Why would you bring that up? Now it could happen.
Good luck, Rachel.
See you next week, everybody.
We hope. Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.